My name is Evan Cole, and 6 months ago I was nobody. At least that's what everyone at Arcton Systems believed. The quiet IT analyst in the basement office who reset passwords and fixed printers. I wore the same gray hoodie every week, kept my head down, and made sure no one remembered my birthday. Being invisible had its advantages. People said things around me they shouldn't. They forgot I was there. They underestimated me, and I let them. Arcton Systems wasn't a startup anymore. It had grown into one of Manhattan's mid-tier tech firms, contracting cybersecurity tools for banks and logistics companies. I'd been with them for 7 years, long enough to see departments rise and collapse, long enough to watch mediocre people climb by, stepping on the quiet ones, long enough to know where every server, every password vault, and every backdoor line of code lived, and long enough to learn exactly how power worked here. My sister Natalie joined the company 3 years ago. I was the one who got her in, pulled strings, vouched for her, trained her. She was smart, ambitious, charismatic. Too charismatic. Within months, she'd caught the attention of Victor Lang, our CEO and coincidentally our mother's younger brother. Uncle Vic always liked charm more than substance. He started grooming her for management, calling her the future of Arcton. I didn't mind at first. She was family. If she won, we all won, or so I thought. Then there was Ryan Brooks, my supposed best friend. We'd gone to college together, coded side projects, shared beers when our paychecks disappeared under rent. He was slick, confident, the kind of guy who made jokes during meetings and somehow got credit for other people's ideas. Still, I trusted him, until the day I caught him forwarding my internal reports to Victor's assistant under his own name. I didn't confront him. I just took note. It started small, being left off emails, meeting invites accidentally lost, project access quietly revoked. The usual corporate suffocation, but it escalated fast. One Friday, Ryan leaned over my cubicle wall. "Hey man, HR's looking for you. Something about data use concerns." I frowned. "Data use?" He shrugged too casually. "Probably nothing. Just go up and clear it." I knew that tone. It was the same one he used before dropping a punchline. When I walked into HR, Monica Price, the manager, smiled the kind of smile people practice in mirrors. "Evan, thanks for coming. Please sit." A printed folder sat on the desk between us. My name was on the tab in bold. Inside, a complaint alleging I'd accessed restricted client databases without authorization. The signature at the bottom made my stomach lurch. Natalie Cole. I read it twice. "This is a mistake." Monica tilted her head sympathetically. "Your sister says she found evidence of your login on sensitive files. Given the seriousness..." "She's lying," I said, voice cracking. "Check the server logs." "We did," she said. "They corroborate her statement." That was the moment I understood just how deep they'd planned this. Natalie had access to my credentials. She'd helped me once with a client migration months ago. If she cloned my key or reused my token, she could make it look like I'd accessed anything she wanted. Monica slid the letter forward. "Effective immediately, you're terminated. You'll receive 2 weeks severance. Security will escort you out." I sat there, stunned, watching her fake smile hold steady while my world folded in half. They didn't even let me clean my desk. 2 guards followed me while I gathered my jacket and phone. Ryan stood by the hallway, pretending to check his watch. Natalie appeared behind him, her expression a portrait of concern badly painted. "Evan," she said softly, "this isn't personal." "It's for the company." I looked at her, really looked. She didn't flinch. "Sure," I said, "for the company." As I handed over my ID badge, I almost laughed. Because that little plastic card with my name on it meant nothing compared to what they didn't know. 5 years earlier, while Arcton struggled to land clients, I'd been building something on the side. Not out of greed, out of survival. I'd watched management burn through budgets while ignoring the engineers who kept the lights on. I realized early that the smartest people here were disposable. So I created Vanguard Holdings, a shell company registered in Delaware under 3 layers of proxies. With the little money I saved, I started buying Arcton's undervalued shares, 1 block at a time, through brokers who never knew who I was. The company wasn't public, but employees could sell internal stock options to private investors. Most did, especially when they left for bigger firms. Over the years, I accumulated quiet control. By the time HR showed me the door, Vanguard Holdings owned 68% of Arcton Systems. I could have revealed at any time. But power unused is power misunderstood, and I wanted to see who would betray me first. 2 nights later, they threw a party at the downtown lounge. New leadership direction, the invite said. Photos showed Natalie in a silver dress, Ryan beside her with a glass of champagne, and Uncle Vic giving a toast. I watched from my apartment, scrolling through social media. They looked radiant, victorious, perfect. That night, I emailed Arcton's legal counsel, scheduling an emergency board meeting for Monday. Subject line ownership review, attendance mandatory. From Evan Cole, Vanguard Holdings, majority stakeholder. At 7 p.m. sharp, I walked into the glass-walled conference room on the 42nd floor. Every executive was there. Victor at the head, Natalie beside him, Ryan fidgeting with a pen, Monica from HR pretending to take notes. Victor squinted. Evan, security, why is he here? I placed a folder on the table. Because I called this meeting. He laughed. You don't call meetings anymore. You're fired. I slid the folder toward Richard Han, the company's outside counsel. Open it. He hesitated, then flipped through the papers. Ownership certificates, transfer agreements, brokerage statements. His eyes widened. These documents show that Vanguard Holdings owns 68% of Arcton Systems, he said slowly. And according to the filings, Mr. Cole is Vanguard's sole shareholder. The room froze. Natalie's smile collapsed. That's impossible. He's just IT. Correction, I said, leaning forward. I was IT. Now I'm the reason you still have paychecks. Victor's face reddened. You manipulated us. No, I cut in. I learned from you. You taught me to play office politics. I just played smarter. Silence. Ryan's voice trembled. Evan, come on, man. Let's talk about this. I looked at him. We will, but not as friends. As an employer and a terminated employee. I opened another folder. Evidence of unauthorized data tampering, leaked emails, and false statements. Each document carried Natalie's and Ryan's fingerprints. Effective immediately, I said. Natalie Cole, Ryan Brooks, and Victor Lang are relieved of their duties for unethical conduct. Natalie slammed the table. You can't do this. I can, I said. And I just did. I handed sealed envelopes across the table. Your severance packages. Consider them generous. Victor rose, trembling with rage. You'll regret this. I stood too. Maybe, but not tonight. As I walked out, I paused at the door. Oh, and that company retreat in Cabo next month? Still happening, just without you. For a while, silence. The kind that hums beneath fluorescent lights and clicks against glass windows at night. I thought the storm had passed. The next few weeks were a blur of legal meetings, restructuring, and whispered shock across departments. People didn't know how to treat me now. One day I was the guy fixing the Wi-Fi. The next I was their boss. Some employees avoided eye contact in the elevators. Others congratulated me too loudly, pretending they'd always believed in me. I didn't mind. The respect, or fear, was new, but it came with an emptiness I hadn't expected. I moved into Victor's old office. The city stretched beneath me, a mosaic of light and shadow. For the first time, the skyline felt like it belonged to me. Yet every night I stayed late, scrolling through financial reports and security logs, double-checking every firewall. I'd won, but winning had its own paranoia. 3 weeks after the board meeting, the first call came. A number I didn't recognize. I answered out of habit. Nothing but silence. I hung up, then it rang again. Same number, same silence. I turned my phone off and tried to shake it off, but a chill ran through me. The next morning, my assistant Leah looked uneasy. Mr. Cole, someone dropped this off for you, she said, handing me a small envelope with no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper with 4 words printed in neat type. You took what was ours. That night I couldn't sleep. I told myself it was a prank. Maybe a bitter ex-employee or some online troll. But the unease stuck to me like static. 2 days later, my condo was broken into. Nothing stolen, nothing broken. Just my laptop open on the kitchen table, the screen still glowing faintly. I checked the security footage from the building. Someone had used an old Arcton keycard to get in, the same key system that had been replaced months ago, yet somehow, an old card still worked. Only 2 people besides me had access to those credentials, Natalie and Ryan. I wanted to believe they wouldn't go that far, but the more I thought about their faces in that boardroom, the rage, the humiliation, the less sure I became. I called the police, filed a report, upgraded the locks, and moved my work to an encrypted drive. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. Every time I turned a corner, every flicker of a shadow near my window, it felt like ghosts from a world I'd buried were clawing their way back up. The message said only, "You're not safe behind that desk." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I called Jason Merrill, Arcton's new head of security, a quiet ex-NSA analyst I'd hired myself. "Trace this," I said, forwarding the email. He called me back that evening. Encrypted, bounced through half the world, but one of the relays used a hotspot registered to a cafe in Jersey City. "Send me the address." "Evan, you don't need to. Just send it." The next morning I drove there. It was a corner cafe with peeling red paint and the smell of burnt espresso. I sat by the window for 2 hours, pretending to read, scanning every face. No Natalie, no Ryan, no one suspicious. Just ordinary people living ordinary lives. By noon, I realized whoever was behind this was smarter than I'd expected. Later that week, Jason reported that someone had tried to breach Arcton's internal network using my old credentials. We blocked the attempt, but the pattern of access looked familiar. Natalie's work signature. Same methods, same timestamps she used to hide files when we'd worked together. She was trying to take something. It didn't take long to find out what. Through a series of encrypted emails, I learned that Natalie had attempted to start her own company, Nexus Point Technologies, a cybersecurity startup claiming to have proprietary algorithms. The code samples she showed investors were stolen straight from Arcton systems. But the tech world is smaller than people think. Word spread fast, and when investors did a background check, the fake complaint she'd filed against me surfaced. HR leaks, rumors, everything. Within a month, she was blacklisted. Ryan didn't fare better. He'd tried to join a competitor, Tarlin Data, but their HR department called me for reference. I told the truth. He'd stolen and falsified reports. The offer was rescinded the next day. For a while, I thought that was the end. Justice, or something close enough to it. Then came the shareholder meeting. It was my first as majority owner. The numbers were good, better than good. Profits up, contracts renewed, morale cautiously optimistic. I stood backstage waiting for my turn to speak. The room buzzed with investors, analysts, press. A perfect day, until I heard a voice I hadn't expected in months. "Evan Cole is a fraud." The room stilled. I looked up. There she was, Natalie, standing near the back in a dark suit, holding a thick folder. Her hair was shorter, sharper, her eyes wild with something between fury and desperation. "This," she said, waving the folder, "proves that Evan Cole stole this company. That Vanguard Holdings is a front built on stolen software and illegal transfers." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Cameras clicked. She walked down the aisle toward the stage. "He doesn't own Arcton. He hacked his way into it." For a moment I couldn't breathe. Every headline flashed in my mind. Fraud, deception, corporate theft. Years of work could crumble in seconds if I mishandled this. The moderator turned to me, pale. "Mr. Cole, do you have a response?" I stepped to the microphone. My heartbeat was steady now, oddly calm. "Yes," I said. I was hoping she'd show up today. I pulled out a black folder from my briefcase. Because I brought something too. I opened it and handed a small drive to the AV tech. The big screen behind me lit up, playing a series of recorded calls and email screenshots. Natalie's voice filled the room. "If we leak this, it'll ruin him. Doesn't matter if it's real. By the time he proves it's fake, the damage will be done." Gasps spread like a wave. The moderator looked stunned. "Ms. Cole, what is this?" I looked at her. Evidence. She bribed a former employee to fabricate those documents. I planted a decoy file labeled Ownership Vulnerability weeks ago to catch whoever was desperate enough to use it. Natalie's face drained of color. "You set me up." I met her eyes. "No, you set yourself up. I just left the door open. Security moved toward her, but she backed away, trembling. You think this is over? She shouted. You think you've won? I didn't answer. She was escorted out as flashes popped from cameras, reporters whispering furiously. I turned back to the audience. This company was built on silence, betrayal, and politics, I said quietly. That ends today. Arcton will stand for something better. Applause started, hesitant then growing. For the first time, I felt a strange peace. But peace doesn't last long when ghosts still have your number. The next morning, there was a letter on my desk. Heavy cream paper, gold-embossed seal, no return address. Inside was a single handwritten note. We know who really funded Vanguard Holdings. You're not the only ghost in this story. Let's meet. My pulse slowed to a crawl. There was only one person who ever signed a note like that. Daniel Reed, my old business partner, the man I'd believed had died 15 years ago. If he was alive, everything I'd built wasn't just mine anymore. The week after I took full control of Halden Systems was a blur of silence and stares. The halls that used to hum with whispers when I passed now went dead quiet. People didn't know whether to smile or look away. I couldn't blame them. Yesterday, I was the guy who fixed their login issues. Today, I signed their paychecks. I spent those first days in my new office cleaning out the ghosts that lingered there, my uncle's framed golf trophies, the photo of Claire shaking hands with a senator at some tech conference. I boxed it all up and left the desk bare, except for a single plant that one of the junior developers, Mia, had shyly left at my door. A silent good luck. I appreciated that. Work became mechanical. Meetings, briefings, paperwork, the machinery of ownership. The board, once arrogant and smug, suddenly became agreeable. Too agreeable. They nodded at every suggestion, approved every initiative, and acted like I was their savior. It was almost worse than their contempt. But beneath the calm, I could feel something building. Claire's silence was too neat. No angry emails, no legal threats, nothing. That wasn't her style. Todd had gone dark too. I knew it was temporary. People like them don't vanish. They regroup. By the second week, small things started happening. My assistant mentioned seeing a man hanging around the parking lot, watching the building. Security brushed it off. Then came the emails, unsigned messages filled with static and fragments of code. I recognized the patterns immediately, old lines of mine, from projects I'd written years ago. It was a message. We still remember who you were. One night, I stayed late to review the network logs. It was almost midnight when I noticed an unfamiliar connection pinging our internal server, coming from one of the obsolete terminals we'd decommissioned months ago. I followed the trace, digging deeper, until it led me to a remote port that shouldn't exist. When I opened it, a message appeared across the screen. Nice office, Ethan. Shame it won't last. No sender, no trace. But the code signature was unmistakable. It was Todd's. I sat back, heart pounding, staring at the screen as the message faded to black. He'd broken in digitally, trying to scare me, maybe prove he still had some control, but he had no idea I was already recording everything. By morning, I handed the logs to my legal and cybersecurity teams. They promised to investigate quietly. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. At night, the city lights outside my penthouse window flickered like 1,000 quiet judgments. I told myself I'd won, that I was untouchable. But that's the thing about revenge. It doesn't end when you think it does. It mutates. It starts to own you. 3 days later, I came home to find my apartment door slightly ajar. My pulse spiked. I moved slowly, careful not to make a sound. Inside, nothing was missing. Nothing broken. But my laptop, the one I used before becoming CEO, was open on the kitchen counter. Its screen glowed faintly, displaying the same message I'd seen before. Nice office, Ethan. This time, the message blinked twice, then vanished. I closed the lid, exhaling slowly. It wasn't just digital now. Someone had been inside. Security footage confirmed it later. A figure in a hoodie, face obscured, entering with an old keycard. Only a handful of people still had access to that system. 2 of them were Claire and Todd. I tightened my circle, changed locks, upgraded security, and told no one. Not even my board. The company needed stability, not another scandal. But in private, I started preparing. I didn't survive 5 years building a shell empire without learning how to stay hidden. If they wanted a war, I'd end it quietly. A week later, I got a tip from one of my contacts in the industry, a recruiter who owed me a favor.